Coming up, it's Natick High School. Taking on Waltham High School. That's next on High School Quiz Show. Hi, everybody, and welcome to High School Quiz Show. I'm Joe Hansen, your host. As always, we start with the toss-up round. All answers are worth 10 points. There are no point deductions for wrong answers. Players, you may confer. All right, teams, if you're ready, good luck. Here we go. Which U.S. state is nicknamed the Grand Canyon State? Willow.
Arizona.
That's right. Traditional photographic film is coated with a light-sensitive compound of what metal with the chemical symbol Ag? Will.
Gold.
Nope. Natick, you have a chance. Owen.
Silver.
Silver is right. In an epic final that lasted 5 hours and 29 minutes, what Spanish player defeated Yannick Sinner at the 2025 French Open? Anthony.
Carlos Alcaraz.
That's right. What city-state was defeated by Sparta in the nearly 30-year Peloponnesian War? Owen.
Troy.
Nope. Waltham, you have a chance. Willow.
Athens.
Athens is right. For our next question, take a look at your monitors. This mailing wrapper marked "Please deliver 11:45 a.m., November 10th, 58" contained what fabled blue diamond that jeweler Harry Winston sent as a gift to the Smithsonian by registered first-class mail? Lauren.
Hope Diamond?
Hope Diamond's right. Adapted from Andy Weir's novel of the same name, what science fiction film stars Ryan Gosling as a lone astronaut who must save the Earth from disaster? Lauren.
Project Hail Mary?
Yes. The strongest of all warriors are these two, time and patience. Who wrote this in his epic novel, War and Peace? Side.
Tolstoy.
That's right. Which country shares a land border with every other South American country except Chile and Ecuador? Declan.
Brazil.
That's right. Bob Dylan passed on performing Best Original Song at the 2025 Oscars, telling the Academy to find someone younger to do it. That someone younger was what 81-year-old frontman of the Rolling Stones? Declan.
Mick Jagger.
Mick Jagger's right. For our next question, take a look at your monitors. It's coming from a special guest.
Hello, I'm Javier Reyes, Chancellor of UMass Amherst, and here's my question. As an economist, I study how economic factors shape historical events. Unfair tax policy was a major spark for the American Revolution, giving rise to the phrase, "no taxation without representation." Passed in 1765, what British law required American colonists to pay a tax on almost all printed materials, including newspapers, legal documents, and even playing cards?
Declan.
Stamp Act.
The Stamp Act is right. What 8-letter word, beginning with the letter F, refers to the most common mineral group in the Earth's crust? Willow.
Feldspar.
Yes. In reference to a snake that strikes without warning, what pejorative term was applied to Northern Democrats who opposed the Civil War? Copperheads, vipers, or scalawags? Anthony.
Copperheads.
Yes. Ruler of one of the largest and wealthiest empires in Africa, Mansa Musa is remembered for building the Great Mosque of Timbuktu in what present-day country? Will.
Mali.
Yes. What two-word Latin phrase refers to the existing state of affairs, especially regarding social or political issues? Declan.
Status quo.
Yes. Known for films like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and All the President's Men, what Oscar-winning actor, director, and producer passed away in 2025 at age 89? Owen.
Rick Reiner.
No. Waltham, you have a chance. Willow.
Rob Reiner.
No, we're looking for Robert Redford. We are off to a great start, but let's take a moment to thank the folks who make this show possible. Major funding for High School Quiz Show is provided by Safety Insurance.
Welcome to another edition of New England Survivalists, the game we all get to play. You can ask an independent agent about safety insurance and learn more at the Resource Center at safetyinsurance.com.
Additional funding is provided by the Museum of Science, Massachusetts Teachers Association, Britebound, UMass Amherst, Subaru of New England, and Direct Federal Credit Union. Welcome back. The score is Natick with 90 points and Waltham with 50. All right, let's get back to the game. Winner of the 2020 Pulitzer Prize for Fiction, what novel by Colson Whitehead is inspired by a notorious reform school in Florida? Looking for the Nickel Boys. What term that begins with the letter V refers to the tiny finger-like projections lining the small intestine that aid with food absorption? Suzara.
Villi.
Villi is right. Which animal is known to have the most powerful bite force, recorded at approximately 3,700 pounds per square inch? The saltwater crocodile, great white shark, or Tasmanian devil? Sai.
Tasmanian devil.
No. Natick, you have a chance. Owen.
Saltwater crocodile.
The saltwater crocodile is right. In April 2025, what governor of Pennsylvania fled the governor's mansion in Harrisburg amid an arson attack? Will.
Shapiro.
Josh Shapiro is right. The geographic dividing line between the Atlantic and Indian Oceans is Cape Agulhas, located in which African country? Sai.
South Africa.
Yes. In 2025, at age 62, who received her first Oscar nomination for her lead role in The Substance, a horror film about an aging star who takes a mysterious drug to stay youthful? Lauren.
Demi Moore.
Yes, Demi Moore. The Galapagos Islands are a province of which South American country? Suzara.
Ecuador.
Yes. Located off the coast of what is now North Carolina, what early English settlement that mysteriously disappeared in 1587 became known as the Lost Colony? Sai.
Roanoke.
Yes, Roanoke. The Roman Empire reached its largest territorial size under the reign of which emperor? Nero, Claudius, or Trajan? Lauren.
Trajan.
Trajan's right. What medical school graduate was the first provisional president of the Republic of China before it became a communist state? Owen.
Chiang Kai-shek.
No? Waltham, you have a chance. Will?
Sun.
Yes, Sun Yat-sen is correct. The Gothic novel Frankenstein was first published in the early part of what century? Owen.
19th.
19th century is right. The first Disney princess created by Pixar. What main character in the film Brave is the rare Disney princess who does not sing in her movie? Anthony.
Merida.
Yes. Maine is one of two states that do not apportion their electoral votes in a winner-takes-all format. Name the other state. Will.
Nebraska.
Yes. The blue whale and its relatives filter their food with a series of fringed plates called what? Anthony.
Baleen.
Yes. In a classic children's book by Judith Viorst, what title character has a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day? Willow.
Alexander.
Yes. And that is the end of the round. The score is Natick with 150 points. Waltham just behind with 130. Let's hear it for both teams. Last week, Sharon beat Wellesley to advance to the quarterfinals. In today's match, Natick and Waltham are both hoping to advance. The head-to-head round is next. But first, we're going to take a minute to get to know the players a little bit better. We'll start with Natick. Declan, you have family in Ireland.
Yeah.
You ever get to go visit, check it out?
Yeah, we try to go, at least once a year. I'm lucky enough to be able to go over in April. So looking forward to that, grandfather's 80th. So
it's close family that you have over there.
Yeah, my father, who's in the audience, is from there. I see him blushing there, so.
All right. Oh, and speaking of dads, your dad is the coach of the team, I hear.
That's right.
You can be honest with me. What's that like?
It's all right. It's better, I had him as a teacher as well and a soccer coach.
Oh, wow.
So he's, jack of all
it.
trades.
He just keeps following you around, all these activities.
Yeah.
It's great to have the support, though, I imagine.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
All right. Lauren, you're a Formula One fan.
Yes.
What's your favorite thing about Formula One?
I like the drama. It's very fast-paced, which I very much appreciate, Stay focused the entire almost 2 hours of every race.
That's a lot of focus. Now, do you have your driver's license?
I do, yes.
Okay. How are you at driving?
Not as fast as they are, for sure.
There's still time to practice. Think you could make it onto the track one day?
We'll see.
Okay. Anthony, I hear you have an interesting and impressive feat. You've memorized 200 digits of pi.
So far.
So far?
Yeah.
It's an ongoing project for you?
Yeah, memorized it during COVID. I memorized the first 50 for no apparent reason, and I started picking it back up last week.
Do you have a method?
So I split it up into chunks of 50 and then split it into chunks of 10, and then memorize it in the first 4 numbers, and then 4 numbers, and then the last 2 numbers to make that the set of 10, and then just keep doing that over and over.
That doesn't sound easier to me at all. Also on the Natick team, we have alternates Henry and Harrison and coach Iva Ford. Now it's over to Waltham. Suzara, your favorite number is 314.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a little bit of a pattern here. This is ringing a bell. That is the first 3 digits of pi, right?
Yeah.
What is it about pi that is so fascinating?
Well, my birthday's on Pi Day.
Do you eat pie on your birthday?
I think I did last year.
Do you have a favorite kind of pie? I'm a huge fan of pie, so we can talk about this for a while.
Probably just apple pie.
Hey, just keep it classic. I like that. And you can calculate the area and circumference of that pie very easily using pi. Willow, you are a combat sports athlete. You've been practicing jiu-jitsu for a while?
Yes, since I was 3 years old.
What appeals to you about jiu-jitsu?
I'm not really a big fan of like punching people and stuff, but jiu-jitsu's a lot less hitting people and more throwing and grappling. And I think that makes it a lot more interesting because it's a lot less scary, but it's also still fun. But also it's something that it's good to know.
What level are you in jiu-jitsu?
I'm a blue belt.
And how many levels are ahead of you till you get to the top?
4 more belts.
Well, hey, I mean, good luck on that journey. I'm not messing with you. Will, you've traveled to a unique place, one that's been in the news lately. I hear you've been to Greenland.
Yes, I did go to Greenland with my dad the summer of 2024. We actually went on their National Day, not their Independence Day, which is the solstice. And they had fireworks in the light.
Wow. So fireworks all day, I guess, huh?
Well, not all day, but the sun never set. So it was just fireworks at like 10 p.m., but it was still in the light.
So what was your favorite part of Greenland? It's such an interesting place.
I just think like the unique landscape, like we kind of stayed in Nuuk, but like even looking around, you could see all these frozen rivers and glaciers, and it was just something you wouldn't really see anywhere else besides Antarctica, perhaps.
All right. Sai,
Yes.
I hear you can hold your breath for a really long time.
Yes.
Well, how long is that?
Around like 3 to 4 minutes.
Whoa. I thought we were gonna be like a minute or like a minute and a half. 3 to 4 minutes. How did you train yourself to do that?
Well, it took a lot of time, but I used a technique where like I kind of like used water and then like kind of like trained that every day, and then I ended up being able to do it.
So do you use that in diving or anything, or is it just sort of for fun?
No, kind of for fun. During COVID, I just decided to learn it. So.
Well, I'll keep an eye out if I see your face turning blue and maybe remind you to breathe later. All right, filling out the Waltham team are alternates Reed and Josie, and coaches Michael Russo and Reba Tierney. Let's hear it for both teams. Okay, it's time for the head-to-head round. In this round, correct answers add 10 points to the team total, and wrong answers result in a 10-point deduction. The clock is set at 90 seconds. How about a nice friendly handshake before we begin? All right, good luck, teams. Here we go. Originally voiced by Boris Karloff, what Dr. Seuss character hates Christmas?
The Grinch.
Yes. Name the process by which plants convert light energy.
Photosynthesis?
Yes. The My Lai massacre fueled American opposition to which war?
Vietnam.
Yes. With the Tortured Poets Department, which artist had the best-selling album?
Taylor Swift.
Yes. In Greek myth, who is punished for stealing fire from Olympus?
Prometheus.
Yes. Which country borders both Norway and
Sweden.
No, Russia. With the largest brain of any land mammal, which animal has excellent long-term and social memory?
The elephant?
Yes. What Polish-born scientist was the first person to win 2 Nobel Prizes? Marie Curie. In 2025, what former U.S. Vice President under George W. Bush passed away at age?
Dick Cheney.
Yes. What dark blue property that costs $400 is the most expensive property in the classic game Monopoly?
Boardwalk.
Yes. Which U.S. city is the official host of the 2028 Summer Olympics?
Los Angeles?
Yes. Foreigners seeking Saudi Arabian citizenship must convert to which religion?
Islam.
Yes. In 1911, the Supreme Court ordered the dissolution of what company that controlled nearly all U.S. oil production?
Standard Oil.
Yes. The term doughboys primarily refers to American infantrymen during which 20th century conflict?
The Mexican-American War.
No, World War I. That is the end of the round. Let's take a look at the score. Natick, 230 points. Waltham has 140 points. Let's give it up for both teams. All right, it's time for the category round. Today's categories are Witch and Famous, A Sure Thing, Prison Break, Street View, Have a Nice Day, and I Can Only Imagine. All categories have 5 questions with increasing point value. Teams will choose 2 categories each and have the option to toss 1 question per category to the other team that the other team must answer. Players, you are able to confer. Natick, who's your spokesperson?
Me.
Lauren? Waltham, how about you?
Me.
Willow. Okay, Waltham, you have a little bit of ground to make up, so you get to choose the first category.
We're going to go with a sure thing.
A sure thing. These are questions about bodies of water. For 10 points. Which Great Lake contains almost 3,000 cubic miles of water, an amount that could fill all the other Great Lakes plus 3 additional Lake Eries?
Lake Superior.
That's correct. For 15 points. What strait between Spain and Morocco is the only natural passage between the Atlantic Ocean and the Mediterranean Sea?
The Strait of Gibraltar.
Yes. For 20 points. What large bay on the southern side of Cuba is the site of the oldest overseas U.S. naval base?
Guantanamo Bay.
That's right. For 25 points in A Sure Thing. What natural phenomenon in Venezuela is the tallest waterfall in the world, plunging over 3,000 feet?
Angel Falls.
Correct. And for 30 points, containing nearly 12 million cubic yards of concrete, the Grand Coulee Dam is one of the largest concrete structures in the world. It's located on what river in Washington State?
The Columbia River.
That is correct. Natick, category to you.
Let's do Witch and Famous.
Witch and Famous. These are questions about fictional witches. For 10 points. Named after a queen from Shakespeare's The Winter's Tale, what Harry Potter character is described as the brightest witch of her age?
Hermione Granger.
Correct. For 15 points. In the 1939 film The Wizard of Oz, what kind and wise good witch of the North guides Dorothy on her journey to the Emerald City?
Glinda.
Correct. For 20 points. In Homer's Odyssey, Circe takes revenge on Odysseus's men by turning them into what?
Guinea pigs.
No, it is just regular pigs. For 25 points in Witch and Famous. The American actor and drag queen Divine was the main inspiration for the depiction of what sea witch in the Disney animated film The Little Mermaid?
Ursula.
Correct. And for 30 points. In Macbeth, what Greek goddess of witchcraft chastises the 3 witches for meddling in Macbeth's affairs without her consent?
Hecate.
Hecate, yes, that's right. Waltham, next category to you.
We're going to go with Street View.
Street View. All answers in this category include the word street. For 10 points. What children's show that premiered in 1969 was almost called 123 Avenue B, but was renamed because the address is a real-life spot in New York's East Village?
Sesame Street.
Correct. For 15 points. I Want It That Way is the signature song of what vocal group that has sold over 130 million albums, making them the best-selling boy band of all time?
The Backstreet Boys.
Yes. For 20 points in Street View. Selected for preservation in the National Film Registry for being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant, what low-budget slasher film marks Johnny Depp's film debut?
Should we toss? We're going to toss.
All right, Natick, this question goes to you.
A Nightmare on Elm Street.
That is correct. For 25 points. A museum in the French Quarter of New Orleans has the typewriter that Tennessee Williams used to write what play?
A Streetcar Named Desire.
Yes. And for 30 points. Greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Michael Douglas delivers this memorable line as Gordon Gekko in what 1987 film?
It's a film with the name of a street in it. So yeah, we're passing.
Just pass it.
Pass.
The film is Wall Street. Natick, final category to you.
I Can Only Imagine.
I can only imagine. These are questions about international desserts. For 10 points. Black Forest cake is a decadent chocolate cake that originates from the Black Forest region of what country?
Germany.
Yes. For 15 points. Meaning burnt cream in French, what classic dessert is a creamy custard with a caramelized sugar topping?
Creme brulee.
Correct. For 20 points. A national dessert in regions of the former Ottoman Empire. What pastry is made of layers of phyllo dough filled with chopped nuts and soaked in honey?
Baklava.
That's right. For 25 points in I Can Only Imagine, meaning three milks in Spanish. What dense sponge cake is soaked in a mixture of condensed milk, evaporated milk, and cream?
Tres leches.
That's right. And for 30 points, also known as Christmas or figgy pudding, what dessert is soaked in brandy and set aflame by Mrs. Cratchit in a memorable scene at the end of A Christmas Carol?
Can we pass?
The dessert is plum pudding. And that is the end of the category round. The score is Natick, 380 points. Waltham has 290 points. Let's hear for both teams. Okay, we're heading into the final round of play, the lightning round. Correct answers add 20 points to the team total, and there is a 20-point deduction for incorrect answers. Okay, the clock is set. Here we go. What Olympian goddess of wisdom was born fully grown? Suzara.
Athena.
Yes. In 2025, the New England Patriots unveiled a 12-foot bronze statue. Anthony.
Tom Brady.
Yes, Tom Brady. What tributary of the Mississippi River is nicknamed Big Willow?
The Missouri River.
Yes. What Scottish inventor is the namesake of the standard unit of power in the Willow?
Watt.
Yes. John Denver's Take Me Home Country Roads is an official state song of which? Will?
West Virginia.
Yes. What Truman Capote novella features the immortal character Holly Golightly? Breakfast at Tiffany's. Which U.S. territory is the birthplace of the rapper known as Bad Bunny? Will?
Puerto Rico.
Yes. The Mayflower Compact was signed in what year? Lauren?
1620.
Yes. In 2025, Adrian Brody won an Oscar for his portrayal of a Hungarian architect in which film? The Brutalist. What Mediterranean seaport is the capital and largest city of Algeria? Will?
Algiers.
Yes. Which Greek letter is a symbol for the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter? Willow?
Pi.
Yes. Vice President J.D. Vance was previously a U.S. Senator from which state? Lauren?
Ohio.
Yes. The poem of the Cid, also known as the Song of the Cid, is widely considered the national folktale of which country? Spain. Which empire was founded in the early 13th century by Genghis Khan? Will?
Mongol.
Yes. A sprain happens when you stretch or tear. Owen?
Ligament.
That is correct. And the winning team this week is Natick with 460 points. Waltham finishes with 450. What a game. Decided at the buzzer. Congratulations to both teams for a fantastic match. Natick now moves on to the quarterfinals. Join us next week for the match between Andover and Charlemont. It should be another good one. Be sure to join us right here on High School Quiz Show.